Welcome to Brand Me. I'm Preston Konrad, and this is the podcast about doing your own thing, whether it's building a personal brand, maximizing your side hustle, or making the most of your everyday.
I use this idea of building your brand as like building a theme park. Every person that comes into your realm is being immersed in your theme park.
Hey, everybody. On today's episode, we are going to talk about how you can use Reels to grow your personal brand and find some success on Instagram. I am joined by Bret Shuford. He is the host of the Creative Visibility podcast and creator of the program of the same name. He's also half of the Instagram brand Broadway Husbands, so you may recognize him from social media. Really fun chat with finding success on Reels, how to use it to fuel your personal brand, and Bret's just an overall sweetheart. You'll love this episode, so grab a cup of coffee, and here is Bret. Hi, Bret Shuford.
Hi, Preston Konrad.
I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. I can't get over your tech equipment. You look amazing. You sound amazing.
Thank you.
No joke.
It's taking some time to figure it out, but yeah, we're here.
We just had a quick pandemic to figure it out, and you clearly maximized that time.
100%.
How's everything going in your podcast world?
You know what? It's great. You just were a guest on mine. We're swapping here, and if anyone wants to hear some of the beautiful things Preston shared, come take a listen. But it's good. You know, I started my podcast not too long ago, and I really find it to be the best medium. I mean, it's just, I can show up consistently, which I, have a YouTube channel, and it's just easier, right? I mean, it's just easier. And I feel like people are more candid when there's not like a bunch of cameras and stuff rolling,
Totally. And I love your podcast. I got to squeeze in a few episodes before we recorded together, and it's very approachable. I feel like I'm listening to one of my buddies talk. I get great takeaways. So I urge everybody to listen to Bret's podcast, which we're going to talk about, and as part of your larger business, creative visibility. But how does one go from theater to entrepreneurial because what you've built for yourself, I think, is a really timely and really important, as a lot of people are realizing that maybe they don't want to sit behind a desk, or maybe they do, but when they leave the desk, they want to enrich their lives by doing what makes them really smile. And I think you're taking totally, advantage of people's desire to do that. So how did that happen?
I think that I understand. I know you relate to this. Like, I need to be creative. That's just a part of who I am. But when you get into these environments where you're making money for other people, and I'm talking about Broadway, like Broadway is this commercial entity, and it was my lifelong dream. And it was this thing where it's like, okay, I made it to Broadway. I never thought about my life past that moment.
Yep.
I literally was like, okay, now what? I know.
Is that a common thing? Is that a common thing that Broadway performers will say to themselves, or Broadway actors will like, all of a sudden it'll hit them?
I think it is. I think it is because, I think people, they're very driven in general. You have to be to get to that place. But that's why you see those people, okay, now I need to originate a role. Now I need to get a Tony Award. And then that's when they move to LA. You see the same sort of patterns, Yeah. They're seekers, they're seeking. But the thing that I started to realize was I really don't love working for other people.
You and me both.
I was like, I'm making all this money for you 8 times a week. I'm breaking my back. And if I could direct this show, if I could write this show, I would do it so differently, and it would resonate in such a better way. And I had all these things that would just frustrate me so much later on in my career. I just felt so powerless as an actor. And I also kept thinking about a lot of these young people who were driven to get to that place in their creative lives, and how disappointed they would be once they got there, because they would realize they're just a cog in a wheel. And how can I help them find out, like, yes, you can still do a Broadway show. I loved being on Broadway. I would be on Broadway again if the opportunity comes. But Broadway became my side hustle. Like, working with people, creatives, coaching them, creating content. That became my job and Broadway became the side hustle. And some producers just can't stand it. Like they want to have all the control. And I think that's a really interesting thing when you kind of get into the corporate world and in general is that idea of like, they don't want you to have a presence. They don't want you to have, you're not as important as the business or the brand that you're working for. And I just don't think that's true anymore. I think we all, like, the internet has changed everything. The pandemic changed everything. And I just want to help as many people, especially queer people, step into roles of visible leadership and know that they can make money doing what they love and be seen and be known. Yep. And that it's a world where we can do that confidently and safely because there's people like you, there's people like me that exist.
It's even such a smart thing you just touched on too, in current state of the world. Like even when I'm on TikTok or something, I'll see someone who's like CMO at H&M or whatever, have a huge presence on TikTok. And back in my day, I'd get in trouble for being on social media by my employer, right? And it's like I had to limit myself, limit my outputs because my job was the keeper of the keys to me, which was weird. And I think we're in this time where a lot of people are like, well, no, you're just renting. You don't own me. You're just renting. And I also have all these other rooms that I rent and I do this on TikTok and this on this. So it's a great time for you to help all these people kind of draw that out a little bit. Cause I think people are like, cool. How do I do it?
Yeah. And I think that's ultimately it. I think there's so many actors who are not, at least from where I come from, you're asking about coming from theater to where I'm at. What I learned is that there's so many people who go through BFA programs, BA programs, and they know zip about running a business. They know nothing about entrepreneurship. And they, especially with social media, there's a lot of like shoulds. They think they're supposed to have a presence. They should have a following. They should have all these things. And how to like get rid of the BS and just like, how do you just make art and create and put yourself, like, make your social media an extension of who you already are in a way that feels authentic, and know and trust that by doing that, you'll make money, you'll book work, people will hire you because they know who you are, you know?
Totally. And you do that primarily you do coaching, you have courses. What is the kind of the most requested, like if someone's newly discovering you, they're like, oh my God, this is the key to my kind of unlocking my personal brand. I did Broadway for this long. I did X for that long. What's the number one kind of thing that people come to you and ask you from the jump? Like, is it about what they should do next? Is it about how to do their logo? Like, what do you see most?
Yeah. You know, I always say like branding, logo, colors, stuff like that. That is like, most people jump to that because that's the fun, juicy stuff. Like that's the thing. Like. But it's also the stuff that you see. Like it's the thing that most people think a business is because it's the only thing they see. And there's all this stuff that you have to do before. So my whole premise of how I teach personal branding really is it can be fun. There's a lot of people out there who teach branding and marketing and social media stuff that it's very by the numbers. And as an artist, like I could care less about numbers. Like I want to connect, I want to entertain, I want people to feel something, you know? So I use this idea of building your brand as like building a theme park. Every person that comes into your realm is being immersed in your theme park. And the more specific you are about the experience you create for them, the more fun they're going to have. And I use Disneyland as a map. Because it's the original theme park. And I use this idea of like, you can't get to the castle, which is your vision of what you want, without walking down Main Street. And Main Street, USA, is Walt Disney's past. It's everything he valued. And so basically, every person that comes into your theme park, your brand, your experience has to know your values. They have to know what you stand for. You got to know your own stories and own those stories so that they can then get into the park and like experience the rest of all that you are. And so I use that. And so I have this thing called the imposter to influencer map, which is how I help
heard
people.
You talk about that, and people can download it, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
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 I love that, by the way. Love.
Thanks. Because like it can be fun. It can be just as fun as going to Disneyland. And the analogy works really well. So the whole course that I have is called the Creative Visibility Program, is really takes you through each land of Disneyland, and this method that I came up with called the Create method to kind of unlock and then create habits. Because really that's all social media is. If you can create a habit, just like flossing or brushing your teeth, it just becomes part of an extension of what you're already doing, because everything is content, everything.
That's why it actually leads into what I want to ask you next about, but it's so true. And I say to people, whether it's clients, friends, or family members I'm helping with their social, is that I find my followers and audiences in general to kind of be like a really cute puppy, like that demand routine and demand repetition and kind of know what to expect from you. Like you're going to be a bright spot in their day. You're going to inform them. You're going to educate them. You're going to show them something new. You're going to show them how to do dinner and then take them somewhere on the weekend. Right. So like you have to give them that routine to look forward to, like the morning people thing with me. I literally was just saying it all the time. And then it became a hat, and then it's in my store. And now people, if I don't say it, they're like, you didn't say it. Is everything okay? I'm like, oh my God, girl, sorry. I just was busy like this morning. But I'm glad that that's part of your course and your map, because it's so true. These routines is really a key to success on social. And a part of social that I'm actually genuinely curious to ask you about is that I think should be in this Disney World of yours is Reels. And I'm struggling on Reels. You are not. You are having a blast, and I providing some really important information about monetization and best practices. If you just in looking at your content, talk to me about like finding your voice on Reels and what you think of it. And let's dive into it a little bit.
Yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, and this is probably the first thing most people do ask me about is Reels.
Is it really?
Because most people find me because of Reels now, because I've had so many go viral at this point that I've had people come to me and be like, where'd you get this audio? How are you doing this? Like, there's so many questions. And ultimately I find for some reason, Reels is where I'm drawn. I think I did give TikTok a really, really good try. And I still do a little bit of TikTok, but I found for me, and this is what I teach people, is like, I was already on Instagram. I like Instagram. I don't need to go move over to someplace just because everybody else is. And once Instagram came out with Reels, I was like, cool, great. I don't need to focus on TikTok. I'm just going to like really own this. And I think the number one thing is, and this is for anybody who wants to be a creative, is just to be willing to fail. Be willing to do some crappy content. Be willing to make a reel that sucks and leave it up and move on. And I think that for me was the tipping point, was like, okay, I'm just going to keep making them. And for a while I was like, I'm going to make one a day. And then I was like, what if I made 2 a day and just tried that for a while and see how that goes? And then that skyrocketed my growth. And for me, I just focus on what I teach is like these 5 pillars of my brand, which is, I talk about coffee. I talk about Disney. I talk about, LGBTQ plus issues. I talk about, and if I constantly push through that lens, whatever audio I'm listening to, I can pretty much come up with an idea that is relatable to my brand.
Wow.
The thing that I find most people get stuck in when it comes to creating Reels is they're thinking about adding value. They're always thinking, because that's what people teach in marketing and social media. Oh, you got to add value.
Right.
And when you learn that, like, adding value, like, there's value in feeling something. There's value in crying and laughing. There is enough value. Like, we go to the theater, we spend hundreds of dollars to go and feel something because we see so much value in experiencing emotion. And that's all a reel has to do. Just connect.
It's so true.
Yeah. And I think that's where people get stuck is they think every single thing has to be educational or valuable, but there is value in just helping people see themselves through you.
That's amazing to put it in that lens, because what works for me on TikTok is really informational, educational, tips, hacks driven content. My Instagram audience doesn't know me that way, and they've been around for a long time. They know me in a totally different way. So when I try to bring that content, they're like, why is he talking to me like that? Like, he's my buddy that I buy jeans with and like talk about cute candles, and like, he's my buddy. Like there's a disconnect there. So I find a little bit of rhythm with reels about talking about, some of my successes with my business and exciting moments and milestones, because it makes the followers feel like they've been part of the journey, back to your feelings thing. But that's interesting to look at it that way. So are you still posting twice a day on reels?
Yeah. Even with,
you're like, no, I'm posting 5 a day.
Well, listen, and I probably would if I really wanted to grow right now, I would. Because honestly,
is it helping you grow?
Yeah, I think reels are. I think most people are afraid they're gonna bombard people if they post too many reels, but reels kind of live in their own world, because they do. I mean, they have their own feed, right? So, if the more you post reels, and especially now that they have reels bonuses. Wait,
tell me about. I need you to talk to me about this, because I think I always see the Instagram updates and the new tools and new available in this, and I kind of dismiss them because I'm toggling through a million different things. I'm like, great, they've added a new feature, I'll get to it, and it's always about like rewarding creators, and I'm like, it's never going to be worth it. You posted something the other day about Reels monetization or Reels bonus. For those people who have not dabbled in Reels, what is this and why do they need to look into it, especially if you are a solopreneur?
I mean, I'm always about creating multiple streams of income, right? And so if they're going to offer me money, just like if you go live on Instagram, you can get badges, right? So go live and have people purchase badges when you go live. It's not going to be anything that's going to pay your rent, but I have my personal account, I have Broadway Husbands, and I have my husband has an account. And consistently for the last 6 months, we've made almost $2,000 between those 3 accounts just from Instagram Reels.
Come on.
Yeah.
Just from the plays.
Just from people watching our Reels. Yeah. Wow. So the way it works is you have to have a creator account, of course. And then you have to set up all the monetization in the back end of Instagram. But then here's the thing that most people, and if you look at the comments on that Reels that you're talking about, it's been very controversial, because people are like, well, I'm not monetized yet. And then I go look at their feed and I'm like, you make 3 Reels a week and they each have about 500 views. So yeah, Instagram's not going to invite you. But if you made 2 Reels a day and a few of them hit over 100,000, you might get invited into the bonuses program. But that's just kind of how it is. It's invitation only, which people love some exclusivity, as you know. So it's one of those things that, I talk about, because I think that most people are censoring themselves when it comes to making this content. And if you have an incentive, you might just fuck it and just start making more, That was
going to be my next question about the censoring themselves. So I know, and I get this message a lot from fellow small business owners, or entrepreneurs or photographers or videographers who have spent a decade making a business on Instagram, and whether it's taking beautiful product photos of their product or putting out their photography, and they're just too freaked out to get in front of Reels and feel like it's, degrading the credibility of the business, or that they don't feel comfortable in front of the camera, or that it's just too junior, or it's a little too playful. What are your thoughts there? Like, on someone who does have a little trepidation to get into a new format like that and feels a little vulnerable?
Well, I would first say, like, you're not really, you're having resistance because you're not allowing that's a form of resistance. To me, I'm like, you're stuck because you liked the way things were, and now things are changing and you don't like it. And so you're resistant to it. And the truth is, like, reels, there's so much opportunity and creativity available. It doesn't all have to be lip syncs to the Kim Kardashian. It doesn't all have to be literally like people would love to watch an artist time lapse a canvas, right? People would love to watch a photographer time lapse an edit. People would love to hear that, or at least, like, you don't even have to be on camera for that. You could just show us your journey, tell a story. The most successful reels that I have are the ones that tell a story. And I think that's what people are missing in successfully creating reels, is they will not have a beginning, middle, and end. They'll just kind of share something.
Yep.
And it takes me nowhere. And it can be 3 seconds long. It doesn't have to be much, but tell me, like, where you're coming from, why, how and why I should care, and what to do next. And anybody can do that. That's as simple as a reel has to be, no matter what it is you create.
It's so true. Like, even, it depends on like what algorithm I'm on that day of reel, like what they're serving to me. But like certain days, it's like this super dreamy aesthetic of literally something as simple as like a beautiful hand in sunlight making a beautiful coffee. And then it's someone waking up, and then it's something else. And it's 2 seconds long. It's 3 seconds long, but it's got insane amount of views, and it's got a start, a middle, and end. And it makes me feel a certain way.
It's an experience, and that's all you have to do as an artist, is create an experience. And so I think that reels it's intimidating to people because it is video and there's like editing process required, and I think most people think they have to be on camera, which is bullshit. You don't.
You totally don't.
You don't. There's accounts where I mean, look, I always think of Amy Sedaris's account, right? You never see Amy Sedaris on her account ever, but she has like 3 million followers, and it's always hilarious.
I love your references of the artist too. Like, there's so many people I follow that make, I don't know, pottery, for example, or do really interesting things with building and making that give you that like ASMR retention as a viewer, but also get to show their business and show maybe the back end. Or there's even someone I follow who just does reels of packing orders for their small business, and it mesmerizes me. And I watch it on, and like the amount of plays is what drives the engagement of the video. And I watch them on loop. Right. I love it.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. Now there's a trend right now. I think that, I have a hack for you on reels too. Remind me to tell you. But right now there's a trend where if you do a 1 second reel that's literally a text, let's say it's a tweet, or I tested this out. 1 second reel, because of the loop, will get you more views, which will drive your traffic up. And right now that's proving to like really get more views. But I was going to say, the Reels feed, there's a little thing I've learned. If I'm scrolling through the Reels feed and I'm like hearing the same audio over and over again, first off, that means if you should use that audio to make something, because it's trending.
It's trending, right?
If you make something out of it, you'll probably latch onto that trend. But if I've already made it, which most of the time, if it's trending, I've already done it. It's so stupid, but
you're so ahead. I love it.
Bougie. Anyway, so if you close out of the app, like swipe up and out of the app, come back into the Instagram app, and then go back to the Reels feed, you'll have a completely different feed. And most of the time, they're audios that you've not heard before or that are trending.
Oh my God, I'm going to do that, because I often find myself, I'm like, wow, they really have me in a rut. Like, they want me to see pretty blonde girl in leather pants A through Z today. Like, I am seeing all of it out here. You know what I mean?
Close out of the app.
Okay. That's a really, really good tip. How are you treating the other services of Instagram when it comes to your personal brand, like not video, like still and live and stories? Do you still treat in feed with care as you did 5 years ago, or is it really about video for you?
I think I at this point, I still do an in-feed post. I almost always do a carousel. It's never like a single image. I go live once a week, something I've always done. And then but reels, man, I do 2 reels a day. It's like my breakfast and dinner. And then for lunch, I put something in my feed. That anything in my feed, and I'm sure everyone is noticing this, just does not do as well as a reel. It just doesn't.
It doesn't. I was at Instagram with a friend of mine who works at Instagram, and we were talking about this, and there's a discoverability issue there. People not discovering that, people not seeing it. I feel you. It's also like the proof is in the pudding, right? The reach and the views and the exposure and the discoverability is in reels. If you want to be seen, hang out in reels, do more reels. And I would you recommend, and I find I get inspired by this, where I just go to the reels tab and spend some time consuming to see what's happening there?
Yeah, so I that's exactly what I do. I go through when I have time and just listen to audio and save those audios to a folder on Instagram. And then when I have the face and the lighting, I will just batch shoot. I will batch shoot a bunch of reels. Sometimes I won't even know what it's about. I'm just like, I like the audio, so I'm going to make it. And then eventually when I feel like posting it, I'll think about what feels relevant in that moment and I'll caption it for that. So really just batching and having them there so that you never run out is essential. But yeah, I mean, that's the best thing. You got to consume a little bit. Just don't get too, I always say to, especially to new people, if you're going to open the app, you need to create more than you consume. So if you're going to consume, that means you got to at least create something, whether it's a story, whether it's a reel, and before you close the app.
Oh my God, I love that pointer. You are a world of knowledge when it comes to Instagram. And I have to be honest, you're reigniting my, I have an interesting relationship with Instagram. Certain days I'm like, you're not rewarding me. I'm not going to reward you. And then certain days I go on TikTok. I'm like, this is the happiest place on earth. I'm going to stay here. Right. But I really love your take on it because it's where we both found our voice on social media. And it is that's obviously the OG tool, right? Before we wrap up, let's take a quick break. You've heard me talk about my brand, Preston Konrad Home, and if you've ever wanted to grab something from my luxury home fragrance collection, today is your day. I want to hook you guys up with 10% off of any single item on PrestonKonradHome.com. That's one of our luxury candles or our new hand wash. Use the code BRANDME. That's PrestonKonradHome.com. Offer code BRANDME. When you started your brand, do you have any moments that live rent-free in your head of the process of getting yourself up and running as a personal brand that are just great, either learnings moments or cherishable moments that you'd want to share?
Oh gosh. I mean, really for me, it all comes back to people. I think I'm curious. I've always been very curious about people. I like people generally, I believe in the best parts of people, let's say. Yeah. And I think that the gift of growing a brand and social media is being able to really find people. And so I would say, like, when I first started just growing an email list and doing an email newsletter, I remember thinking, similar to what we were talking about on your podcast, on my podcast with your interview, about like, who the fuck do I think I am sending out an email telling people, I'm opening in this show or I'm doing this, until I did it for a few months and I show up at an audition for a casting director who was on my email list, but hadn't seen me for years. And they're like, I saw that you ate at this restaurant. I saw that you did this and that. And they were like, they knew about me without me ever having to contact them because everything I was doing was paying off. And I remember thinking, this is really cool. Like, people know me, or at least they feel they know me, and it's paying off. And just those little moments, or even somebody just being on the street, like now with Steven and I, we go places and people go, oh my God, Broadway husbands. Oh my God, are you going to do some fun dance? Are you going to, like, you know what I mean? And it's just such a great feeling to know that they're not like, ugh, Broadway husbands, you know?
Right. Exactly. Doesn't that feel so nice?
It does.
It's like the hard work pays off.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really does.
How can everybody find you on the socials and get into your world of personal brand coaching, look at your map, download the map, all the fun things?
Yeah. Well, I have a bunch of free resources on my website. If you go to bretshuford.com, including the Imposter to Influencer map and some other really cool things. And then, of course, Broadway Husbands, we're sharing about our journey as new dads. And
congratulations.
Thank you. We're having a lot of fun really coming up with ideas and just not trying to exploit our son, but it's super, but it's super fun to like think of ways to be creative now that we have this third member of our family, Oh
my God, what an exciting time for your personal brand, for your personal life. How old is he?
He's 8 weeks.
Oh my God, you have a fresh baby.
He's fresh. He's cute as all hell.
Oh my God, that's beyond. I'm so happy for you guys. You have to tell your man I said hi. And thank you so much for joining me on my pod. It was a pleasure to be on yours, and I'm glad we finally got to spend some FaceTime. For more on the show, you can find us on Instagram at Brand Me Podcast or at Preston Konrad. Be sure, of course, to rate, review, and subscribe and share on social. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.